The air on Vera, a distant trade world, was always heavy with the smell of metal and dust. Merchants shouted across the wide open markets, selling parts of ships, tools, spices, and strange crystals dug from the deep mines. Aaron, a human explorer, walked through the busy lanes with his usual calm steps. He had been to many colonies and stations before, but something about Vera felt different. The people here did not smile much, and the alien traders often kept their distance when he passed. Aaron carried a small bag of supplies on his shoulder and a map device in his hand. He planned to leave the planet within a day or two. His ship needed fuel, and he wanted to rest before setting out again. He had no reason to expect anything unusual. To him, this was just another stop on his long journey across the stars. As he walked toward a quiet corner of the market, he noticed a girl sitting near a stall of old books and artifacts. She looked different from the other aliens around her. Her skin was pale silver with faint lines that shimmered like running water, and her eyes were large and bright, almost glowing in the dim light of the market lamps. She did not shout to sell anything like the other merchants. Instead, she sat quietly, almost as if she was waiting for someone. Aaron stopped, curious. He did not know why, but he felt drawn to her presence. She looked up and met his gaze. For a moment, it felt as if the noise of the market had faded away. The girl tilted her head slightly, studying him, and then her eyes moved to his arm. Aaron had rolled up his sleeve because of the heat. The tattoo on his forearm was visible, a dark swirling symbol with 3 rising lines at its center. It was an old mark, not chosen by him, but passed down in his family. His grandfather had told him it meant endurance and unity. Aaron had never thought much about it. To him, it was just part of his identity, a quiet reminder of home. The girl stood up slowly and stepped closer. Aaron tensed for a second, not sure what she wanted, but her movements were calm and soft. She raised her hand, hesitated, and then gently traced her fingers along the lines of the tattoo. The touch was light, almost like she was not sure if it was real. Her eyes widened as she whispered, "This. I know this." Aaron frowned. "You know this symbol?" She nodded, her voice soft, almost uncertain. "Yes. I have seen it many times, in my dreams." The words struck Aaron deeply. He had traveled across many worlds, met hundreds of people, but no one outside his family had ever recognized the mark. And here was a stranger, an alien girl, saying she had seen it in her dreams. "What do you mean?" he asked, his tone steady but filled with curiosity. The girl lowered her hand and looked at him with an expression he could not fully read. "Since I was very young, I dreamed of this shape. Always the same. Always shining. I never understood why." Her name, as he soon learned, was Sarah. She spoke quietly, as if she feared someone might overhear. Aaron listened carefully as she explained that the dreams came again and again through the years. Sometimes the symbol appeared in the sky, sometimes on a wall of stone, sometimes floating in water. She never knew its meaning, but it always gave her a feeling of warmth and importance. Aaron was silent for a while. He glanced at his tattoo, then at her. "This mark is from my people," he said. "It has been in my family for generations. We use it to remember who we are. To stay strong together." Sarah's eyes softened. "Then it is real. Not just a dream." For the first time since landing on Vera, Aaron felt a strange shift inside him. He had always thought of the tattoo as something small, something personal that tied him only to his own family. But now, an alien girl claimed it connected to her life as well, in ways he did not yet understand. Around them, the noise of the market continued as if nothing important was happening. Traders shouted, machines hissed, and ships rumbled in the distance. Yet in that small corner, it felt like the universe had paused to let this moment happen. Sarah stepped back slightly, lowering her voice again. You should not show this mark here. Not all will understand. Some may fear it. Aaron studied her carefully. Her words carried weight, as if she knew more than she was saying. But he decided not to press her just yet. Instead, he gave a small nod. Then maybe you can help me understand. If you have seen this in your dreams, maybe you know something I do not. For the first time, Sarah smiled. It was a small, quiet smile, but it reached her bright eyes. Perhaps, she said. But if we search for answers, it will not be easy. Aaron felt a spark of determination rise within him. He had not expected anything beyond buying fuel and supplies on Vera. Yet now, standing before this mysterious girl who carried part of his past in her dreams, he knew his journey had just changed. He adjusted the strap of his bag, glanced once more at the tattoo, and then looked at Sarah. Then let us see where it leads. And with those words, the first step of a greater path began. The night came quietly over Vera. The twin moons rose above the dusty horizon, casting a pale silver light across the markets and the stone streets. Most traders had closed their stalls, leaving only dim lamps burning at the corners. The once noisy square had grown silent, with only the soft hum of distant ships in the sky. Aaron walked with Sarah through the empty streets. She had asked him to follow her after their strange meeting earlier that day. He did not know where she was leading him, but her voice carried an urgency that made him trust her. She moved with grace, her steps light, as if she knew every corner of the city. They finally stopped near a small building made of dark stone. Its walls were worn with age, and a carved symbol rested above the door. Sarah pushed it open and guided him inside. The room was quiet, filled with shelves of old scrolls and crystal records. Dust hung in the air, but there was a sense of calm within the walls. This is where I study, Sarah said softly. My people keep memories here. Stories, dreams, and warnings. Aaron looked around, running his hand across one of the shelves. So this is like a library? Sarah nodded. She walked closer to him and glanced at his arm. The tattoo was still visible in the glow of the lamp she carried. She hesitated, then raised her hand once more, tracing the lines with the tip of her finger. Her voice fell to a whisper. It is the same. The same shape I have seen since I was small. Always in my dreams. It shines above me like a star. Aaron studied her face. She was not lying. He could see the truth in her eyes, a mix of fear and wonder. He had met many people across the stars, but no one had ever spoken of his family's mark with such emotion. What do your dreams show you? He asked quietly. Sarah lowered her hand and stepped back. She took a slow breath before answering. Sometimes I see a great wall of stone. Sometimes I see a wide ocean, endless and bright. And sometimes I see fire in the sky. But always, always, this symbol appears. It glows, and I hear voices calling me. They say the mark is not only mine, but belongs to many. They say it carries a path. Aaron felt the hairs on his arms rise. The tattoo was a part of him, yet he had never thought of it as more than a family tradition. Hearing her words made him question everything he had believed. This symbol, Aaron said, is from my people. My grandfather carried it. His father too. They said it means unity. They said it reminds us to stand together. But that was all. No one spoke of dreams. Sarah gave a faint smile. Then perhaps the meaning is greater than they knew. Perhaps it is not only for humans. She walked to one of the shelves and pulled out a crystal record. When she placed it on a stand, a small light flickered, and a glowing image filled the air. It showed old carvings, symbols etched into stone walls. Aaron leaned closer. His eyes widened when he saw the familiar shape. There it was, the very same mark on his arm. "You see," Sarah whispered, her eyes fixed on the glowing image. "This is not only yours. This is ours too. These carvings are older than memory. Some say they were made before the stars were divided. But no one understands them. No one but me, and now, you." Aaron took a step back, his mind racing. How could this be possible? A symbol from his family, passed down for generations, was carved into alien ruins far older than any human record. He felt a deep connection, not just to his ancestors, but to something far beyond. "Why have your people not spoken of this?" Aaron asked. Sarah's voice grew heavier. "Because they fear it. The elders say such marks bring danger. They say the past is better left buried. But I cannot ignore it. These dreams, this symbol, it has followed me all my life. And now, seeing it on you, I know it was never just a dream." Aaron looked at her closely. She was young, yet her eyes carried a weight of knowledge and loneliness. He realized she had carried the secret alone for years, with no one to believe her. And now, fate had brought them together. "You are not alone anymore," Aaron said firmly. "If this mark connects us, then we will find the truth together." Sarah's eyes softened. For the first time, she allowed herself to hope. She gave a small nod, though her voice trembled. "If we search for answers, the elders may stop us. They will not want this knowledge to rise again." Aaron folded his arms. "Then let them try. I have crossed many worlds. I will not turn away now." The lamp flickered, casting shadows across the shelves. Outside, the city slept, unaware of the secret being shared in the quiet room. Two lives, once strangers, were now bound by a single mark that carried across time and species. Sarah whispered once more, her words soft but clear. "The dream has always told me this mark is a path. Perhaps it was waiting for you." Aaron met her gaze. His voice was steady, but his heart was alive with questions. "Then let us follow it." And with that promise, their search for the hidden truth began. The next day began with the rising of Vera's twin suns. Their golden light spread across the rocky hills and the wide markets. Merchants returned to their stalls, voices rising in sharp tones as trade resumed. But Aaron and Sarah were not among them. They had spent the night in the old memory hall, speaking in hushed tones until dawn. When morning came, Sarah led Aaron deeper into the archives. Dusty shelves stretched endlessly, filled with records of her people's history. The air smelled of parchment and crystal, untouched for many years. She walked with a steady pace, her silver skin catching the pale light from the high windows. Aaron followed, his steps heavier but firm. He had crossed many stars, but nothing had ever shaken him like this strange bond between his tattoo and her dreams. "We must search carefully," Sarah said, her voice low. "The elders do not allow us to read the oldest records without permission. But I have studied enough to know where to look." Aaron gave a small nod. "Show me what you know. If this symbol is carved into your history, then my family has been part of something greater than we ever understood." They reached a locked chamber at the far end of the hall. Sarah placed her hand on a small panel, and the stone door slid open with a deep hum. Inside were tall pillars with markings glowing faintly. Strange murals covered the walls, drawn with lines of silver that shimmered in the dim light. Aaron's eyes widened as he stepped closer. The murals showed beings with tall figures and bright eyes. Some looked like Sarah's people, others looked different. Among them, carved clearly, were shapes of humans. Not in detail, but unmistakable, round heads, broad shoulders, shorter than the others, yet standing proudly beside them. And above them, shining at the center of the mural, was the symbol. Aaron froze. His tattoo, the mark passed down through his family, was carved into the wall of this alien chamber, older than human memory. He lifted his arm and placed it near the carving. The resemblance was exact. "This is impossible," he whispered. Sarah's voice trembled, but her eyes shone with certainty. "No, it is real. I told you I had seen it in my dreams. Now you see it with your own eyes." Aaron touched the wall, feeling the cold stone under his fingers. "If humans are here in your history, then your people knew mine long ago. Long before we had ships, long before we left Earth." Sarah nodded slowly. "There are stories of the first meeting, but the elders call them myths. They say the old tales are dangerous, that remembering them brings trouble. But here is the proof. Your people stood with us once." Aaron's mind raced. He thought of his grandfather, who had told him the mark meant unity. Perhaps his ancestors had known the truth but kept it hidden across generations. Perhaps the story had faded until only the symbol remained. Sarah walked closer to the mural, her silver fingers brushing the carved lines. "The dreams always showed me fire in the sky. Perhaps this was a warning of what was lost. Perhaps the bond between our people was broken." Aaron's voice grew firm. "If it was broken, it can be rebuilt. Humanity has survived many things. We adapt, we endure. If our ancestors stood beside yours, then we can stand together again." Her eyes turned to him, filled with quiet hope. "Do you believe that?" "Yes," Aaron said without hesitation. "If this mark connects us, then it is not just memory. It is a promise." For a moment, silence filled the chamber. The weight of history pressed down on them both, yet it was not a silence of fear. It was a silence of discovery, of two worlds remembering they were not strangers. But their moment did not last. A sound echoed through the hall, the sharp strike of boots on stone. Sarah's face grew tense. She motioned for Aaron to step back into the shadows. Two elders entered, tall and stern, their eyes narrowing as they saw the open chamber. One of them spoke in a cold voice. "This room is forbidden. No one is allowed here without permission." Sarah bowed her head, trying to remain calm. "I was studying, elder. I meant no harm." The elder's eyes drifted toward Aaron. His brow tightened when he saw the human. "And why is he here? This outsider has no place among our memories." Aaron stayed silent, his instincts warning him not to speak. He kept his hand near his side, covering his tattoo. The second elder stepped forward, his voice sharper. "You play with fire, Sarah. These symbols belong to the past. They are not meant to rise again. Forget what you have seen." Sarah's lips tightened, but she lowered her gaze. "Yes, elder." The elders turned, giving them both one last look of warning before leaving the chamber. The sound of their footsteps faded into silence again. Aaron let out a slow breath. "They know something." They are hiding the truth. Sara nodded. Her voice was low but steady. Yes. That is why they fear it. They want the past buried. But now I know I am not alone. My dreams were never lies. You are the proof. Aaron looked once more at the glowing symbol on the wall. His heart beat faster, not with fear, but with determination. Whatever the elders were hiding, he would uncover it. The hidden connection between humans and Sara's people was real, and it was far too important to remain in shadows. He turned to her, his voice calm but strong. Then we will not stop here. We will find the whole truth. Sara's eyes shone as she nodded. For the first time, she felt certain that the dream had brought her exactly where she was meant to be. The air in the memory hall felt heavier after the elders left. Their words stayed with Sara, sharp like cold steel. She had known they would not approve of her search, but their warning carried more than anger. It carried fear. Aaron watched her as she closed the chamber door. Her hands shook slightly, though her face tried to remain calm. They are afraid, he said quietly. But not of us. They are afraid of what the symbol means. Sara lowered her lamp and let the golden light fall across the carved mural. The glowing mark shone faintly on the wall. Yes, she whispered. They fear the past. They fear it because they know it is true. Aaron stepped closer. His voice grew firm. If they know it is true, why do they hide it? Why not tell your people that humans and your kind once stood together? Her silver eyes turned to him, sadness clear in her gaze. Because the past speaks of war. Long ago, there was an enemy greater than any we had faced. My people joined with yours to fight it. But the stories say it nearly destroyed us. The elders believe remembering will only bring back danger. Aaron looked again at his tattoo. His grandfather had told him the mark meant unity, but he had never spoken of war. Could it be that the meaning was only part of a much greater story? They want peace by hiding the truth, Aaron said. But peace built on silence is not real. It cannot last. Sara's voice was soft, but there was strength behind it. I know. That is why I kept searching, even when they told me to stop. The dreams never let me rest. Now that you are here, I feel certain the dreams are not only mine. They are a memory calling both of us. Aaron studied her carefully. She was young, yet she carried a burden her people refused to share. He respected her courage, and he felt the weight of the same burden now resting on his own shoulders. He placed his hand on the mural beside hers. The stone felt cold, but a strange warmth pulsed beneath the surface, as if the mark itself was alive. If our ancestors fought side by side, then maybe the same threat could return. Maybe that is why you dreamed of fire in the sky. Sara's face grew pale. I have thought the same. But if I speak such things, the elders will silence me. They will call me lost, or worse. They fear even the idea of it. The silence of the chamber pressed down on them both. The truth they had uncovered was heavy, and the shadows of the past stretched long across their path. Aaron finally broke the silence. Then we must keep searching, with or without their blessing. If the past warns of danger, hiding it will not protect anyone. Humanity has always faced threats by looking forward, not by closing our eyes. Sara gave a faint smile, though worry still clouded her eyes. You speak boldly, Aaron. My people are careful, perhaps too careful. You remind me of something I cannot name. Perhaps it is the strength your mark carries. Aaron chuckled lightly. Or perhaps it is just the way humans are. We do not give up easily. She looked at him for a long moment, then turned back to the shelves. If the elders will not help us, then we must find answers on our own. There are ruins on a moon not far from here. I have read only fragments about them. They are said to be older than any city on Vera. The symbol appears there as well. Aaron's interest sharpened. Then that is where we go. If the truth is hidden in those ruins, we will uncover it. Sarah hesitated. The journey will not be safe. The elders may watch us. And if they believe we are chasing forbidden knowledge, they will try to stop us. Aaron's eyes held steady. Let them try. I did not cross the stars to run from shadows. If this mark connects us, then I will see it through to the end. Her gaze softened. She felt the strength in his words, a strength she had carried alone for too long. Now, with him beside her, the weight of her secret no longer seemed impossible. The two of them prepared quietly. Sarah gathered the records she could hide, small crystals glowing faintly in the dark. Aaron checked his supplies, making sure his ship would be ready. Neither spoke loudly, as if the walls themselves were listening. When they finally stepped out into the cool night air, the streets were nearly empty. Only a few lamps burned, and the silver moons lit the stone roads. Aaron glanced at the sky, then at Sarah. When do we leave? Soon, she answered. But once we go, there is no return. The elders will not forgive us. Aaron gave a short nod. Then let them be angry. The truth is worth more than their silence. For a moment, Sarah said nothing. She simply looked at him, as if weighing the choice she had already made in her heart. Then she gave a slow, steady nod. Very well. Tomorrow, we leave for the ruins. As they walked through the quiet streets, Aaron felt a new fire within him. He had come to Vera for fuel and supplies, nothing more. Yet now he found himself part of a secret that tied his family, his people, and an alien race together. The mark on his arm was no longer just a reminder of home. It was a key to something far greater. And though the path ahead would be dangerous, he welcomed it. Because he knew one truth with absolute certainty: humanity had never turned away from a challenge, and neither would he. The morning sun rose slowly over Vera's rocky horizon. A thin mist clung to the valleys, while the markets stirred with early activity. But Aaron and Sarah did not linger among the stalls. Their steps carried them to the landing yards, where ships rested like silent beasts waiting for the skies. Aaron's ship stood at the far end. It was not large or new, but it was strong. Its hull carried scars from storms and battles, yet its engines purred with steady life. Sarah stopped in front of it, her silver eyes wide with quiet awe. This will take us to the moon, she asked. Aaron gave a small smile. She has carried me through worse places than a forgotten moon. Trust me, she can handle it. They loaded the supplies in silence. Aaron carried fuel cells and tools while Sarah carefully packed the glowing crystal records she had stolen from the memory hall. Every step carried weight. They both knew that once they left Vera, the elders would not forgive them. Still, neither turned back. When the last crate was secure, Aaron guided Sarah up the ramp. The ship's doors closed with a heavy hiss, sealing them inside. The hum of the engines filled the air, a sound both familiar and comforting to him. Sit there, he said, pointing to the co-pilot's seat. Sarah sat carefully, her silver fingers running along the edges of the console. She had flown small crafts before, but never something like this. Her eyes shone with curiosity. Aaron powered up the ship, the screens glowing bright around them. Once we leave atmosphere, the elders will know. They may try to follow. Sara's voice was steady. Then we must move quickly. The engines roared, lifting them into the sky. Vera's rocky surface fell away beneath them as clouds rushed past the windows. The ground became smaller, fading into a wide stretch of gray and gold. Within minutes, the ship broke free of the atmosphere, entering the silent sea of stars. Sara leaned closer to the glass, her face filled with wonder. Every time I see this, it feels like the first time. The stars are endless. Aaron glanced at her, his voice calm. And yet, even in all this endless space, our paths crossed. Perhaps that means something. She turned to him, her eyes softening. Yes. I believe it does. The journey to the moon took hours. Aaron guided the ship with practiced ease, checking the maps on his console. The moon was small, covered in ice and dust, orbiting far from the warmth of Vera's suns. Few ever traveled there, for it held no trade, no colonies, only ruins buried in silence. As they drew closer, Sara's dream seemed to stir within her. She closed her eyes, whispering softly. The mark will be there. I feel it. Just as I saw in my dreams. Aaron watched her for a moment, then returned his gaze to the moon ahead. Then we'll find it? Together. The ship entered the thin atmosphere, landing gently on a flat plain of gray dust. The surface stretched endlessly, broken only by jagged ridges and frozen valleys. Beyond them, dark stone structures rose from the ice, half buried but still standing against time. Aaron powered down the engines and stood. We're here. They stepped outside, their boots pressing into the soft dust. The air was thin but breathable, carrying a sharp chill. Sara wrapped her cloak tighter around her shoulders, while Aaron adjusted the straps on his gear. Before them, the ruins loomed like shadows of another age. Towers leaned under the weight of centuries, walls cracked with frost, yet the shapes of the carvings were still clear. Symbols lined the stones, glowing faintly under the cold light of the stars. Sara's breath caught. It is the same. The same as the murals. The same as the dreams. They walked slowly, their steps echoing in the silence. Aaron reached out to touch one of the carvings, feeling the grooves under his fingers. The mark was there again, carved deep into the wall, just as it was on his arm. Aaron's voice was quiet. Our ancestors were here. Yours and mine. Sara nodded, her eyes fixed on the glowing shapes. Yes. They stood here together, long ago. And something happened that the elders fear to remember. Deeper into the ruins, they found a wide hall. Broken pillars lay scattered across the ground, but the walls still carried murals of battles. Beings of light and shadow clashed in great storms. And there, always at the center, was the mark of unity. Sara knelt before one of the walls, her hand trembling as she traced the carvings. This is it. The dream was true. The mark was never only mine. It was never only yours. It was the bond between us. Aaron looked around the hall, his jaw tight. Then the elders were wrong to hide it? If there was a war once, it means there could be another. We need to know what they fought against. Her silver eyes turned to him, full of quiet determination. Then we must awaken the past. Whatever danger is hidden here, we must face it together. Aaron placed his hand over his tattoo, feeling the weight of generations behind it. Then let's begin. If the truth is here, we will uncover it. The ruins stood silent, but a faint hum stirred in the air, as if the stones themselves had been waiting for this moment. The journey had led them here, and now the true search was about to begin. The ruins were silent, but the silence felt alive. Every step Aaron and Sarah took echoed through the vast stone hall. The murals of battles glowed faintly, their silver lines catching the dim light that filtered from cracks above. The air was cold and still, yet Aaron felt a quiet hum beneath his feet, as if something long asleep was waiting. Sarah moved slowly toward the center of the hall. Her hand brushed across the carvings on the wall. The mark of unity appeared again and again, always at the heart of the ancient images. She whispered softly, "This place remembers. It has not forgotten." Aaron studied the carvings more closely. The murals showed not only battles, but also figures standing side by side. Human shapes and Sarah's people were drawn together, facing an enemy of shadow. The enemy was vague, its form unclear, like darkness given life. Above the fighters, the mark shone like a star. Aaron touched his tattoo and stepped closer to the center. This mark was not just for families, he said. It was a sign for all of us. A signal of unity. Sarah nodded, her silver eyes wide with awe. Yes. And I think it is more than a symbol. It is a key. She pointed toward the middle of the hall, where a large stone circle lay flat on the ground. Faint lines of silver spread from it like rivers. Aaron stepped onto it, feeling the stone vibrate faintly beneath his boots. Suddenly, his tattoo began to glow. The lines on his arm shimmered with soft light, the same light that ran across the carvings on the walls. Sarah gasped and stepped back, her hands covering her mouth. "Aaron," she whispered, "it is answering you." The light spread across the stone floor, racing along the silver lines like fire through dry grass. The entire hall brightened, the carvings on the walls shining as if filled with life again. The air trembled, and a deep tone rose from the ground, like the sound of a giant bell ringing in the distance. Aaron clenched his jaw but did not move away. He raised his glowing arm higher. "It is not just answering me. It is remembering." The floor opened slightly, and a column of light rose from the circle. Shapes formed within the light, bending and shifting until they became clear. A figure appeared, tall and bright, with features neither fully human nor fully alien. It was a projection, a memory locked within the ruins. The figure spoke in a voice that carried across the chamber, soft yet powerful. "To those who carry the mark, you are the heirs of the bond. Long ago, your people stood together. We faced the darkness that sought to devour the stars. We fought as one, and only through unity did we survive." Sarah's eyes shone with tears. She whispered, "The dream, it was always leading me here." Aaron stepped forward. What was the enemy? What happened to the bond? The figure's expression grew heavy, almost sorrowful. The enemy was endless shadow, without form or mercy. It consumed worlds and silenced voices. Together, your peoples drove it back, but the cost was great. Fear divided you after the war. Trust was broken, and the bond was forgotten. But the mark was left behind, so that one day it might awaken again. The projection lifted its hand, pointing toward Aaron and Sarah. "If the mark has returned, then the shadow stirs once more. You must remember what was lost. You must rebuild what was broken. Alone, you will fall. Together, you may endure." The light flickered, the figure's form trembling as if the memory itself was struggling to hold. Then, with one last bright flash, it faded away. The hall dimmed, leaving only the soft glow of Aaron's tattoo and the carvings on the wall. Silence returned, heavier than before. Sarah fell to her knees, her voice shaking. "It is true. The darkness will return. That is why I dreamed of fire in the sky. It was not just memory. It was a warning. Aaron placed a hand on her shoulder. His voice was steady, though his heart pounded. Then we know what must be done. If the shadow is coming back, we cannot face it alone. Your people and mine must stand together again. She looked up at him, her silver eyes filled with both fear and hope. The elders will not believe us. They will say it is only illusion. Aaron shook his head. Then we will show them. We will carry this truth to anyone who will listen. Humanity does not turn away from danger. If this enemy is coming, then we will face it head on. But we will not face it alone. Sarah rose slowly, her hand brushing across the glowing mark on his arm. The bond lives again, through you and through me. Perhaps that is why the dream was mine. Perhaps it was waiting for us. Aaron gave a small, determined smile. Then the dream has found its voice. And together, we will make sure it is heard. As they stood in the center of the hall, the faint hum of the ruins seemed to grow stronger, as if the stones themselves approved of their promise. The awakening had begun, and the silence of ages had broken. The past was no longer hidden. The bond was alive once more. The journey back from the ruins felt longer than before. The forest seemed to watch Aaron and Sarah as they walked, the heavy knowledge of what they had discovered pressing on both of them. Neither spoke much at first. The silence was not of distrust but of thought. Each step carried the weight of history, the mark on Aaron's arm glowing faintly like a reminder of the truth they had seen. When the sun rose the next day, the world seemed different. The sky looked brighter, the air sharper, as if everything around them understood that something old had awakened. Aaron looked at the horizon and thought of his people. He imagined their ships, their cities, their strength, and their flaws. He knew that convincing them would not be easy. Sarah walked beside him, her silver eyes thoughtful. The elders will fear this, she said. They have lived in silence for many generations. They believe the past should stay buried. They will say your mark is only chance, nothing more. Aaron nodded. My people may say the same. They do not trust easily. But fear will not protect us when the shadow comes. We cannot hide from it. Sarah stopped walking. She placed her hand gently on his glowing tattoo, her voice firm. Then we must make them see. Even if they doubt, even if they turn from us, we will carry the bond ourselves. We cannot wait for permission. The enemy will not wait either. Aaron looked at her hand on his arm and felt strength rise in him. He gave a small smile. Then we make a promise. To each other, and to all who will listen. We will stand together. We will not let the bond die again. Sarah's face softened, and for the first time since the ruins, a calm peace touched her. A promise, she repeated. By the time they reached the edge of the forest, the stars were rising. Aaron stopped and looked up at them, the endless spread of light across the sky. Somewhere out there, the shadow waited. It might be days, years, or centuries before it struck again, but it would return. He could feel it, just as the ruins had warned. That night, they made camp by a quiet stream. The fire crackled softly, its light dancing on their faces. Sarah sat close, tracing the mark on his arm with her finger. She did not whisper this time, but spoke clearly, as if speaking to the stars. This mark is not only memory. It is a promise written into the skin of two peoples. It says we are not alone. We were never meant to be. Aaron listened, his eyes on the flames. When the shadow comes, it will not expect resistance. It will think we are divided. That is its strength. But we will show it something different. We will show it the bond. The fire burned low, but neither of them slept. Their talk carried through the night, not of fear but of plans. They spoke of returning to Sura's people first, of telling the elders what they had seen. Then they would seek a way to reach Aaron's world. They would bring the story of the ruins, the truth of the mark, and the promise of unity. Morning came quietly. The stream glowed with the light of dawn, and the trees swayed gently in the breeze. Aaron rose and stretched, feeling both weary and strong. Sura stood beside him, her silver hair catching the sun. "Are you ready?" she asked. He met her gaze and nodded. "I am. Whatever waits ahead, we will face it together." They left the forest behind and walked toward the settlement of Sura's people. The closer they came, the more anxious Sura felt. She knew the elders would resist. But she also knew something else: the dream had led her here for a reason. The ruins had awakened not only the past but her purpose. When they entered the settlement, eyes followed them. Whispers spread quickly, for Sura had been gone long and had returned with a human by her side. The glowing mark on his arm drew even more attention. Some stepped back in fear, others leaned forward in wonder. The elders gathered in the central hall, their faces marked by age and caution. They listened as Sura spoke, her voice steady, her words clear. She told them of the ruins, of the projection, of the truth of the bond. She told them of the shadow and the warning that it would return. At first, silence filled the hall. The elders exchanged uneasy glances. One spoke sharply: "Dreams are not truth. Memories cannot fight. The past is gone." But then Aaron stepped forward. He raised his glowing tattoo for all to see. "This mark is not only dream. It is alive. It answered the ruins, and the ruins answered me. You may choose silence, but silence will not stop what is coming. The shadow will not ask if you are ready. It will not wait. The only choice is whether you stand alone or together." The hall grew restless. Some elders frowned, others lowered their heads. Among the younger ones, hope flickered in their eyes. They whispered to one another, and Sura saw belief begin to take root. That night, as the settlement slept uneasily, Sura and Aaron sat together outside the hall. The stars above were bright, endless, and filled with quiet promise. Sura looked at him and said softly, "Even if they do not follow, we will keep walking. The bond lives in us now." Aaron gave a firm nod. "And that is enough to begin. Humanity has a saying: a single flame can light 1,000 more. Let this be the first flame." They sat in silence for a while, watching the stars. Somewhere far away, the shadow stirred. But here, under the sky, a new bond had been born again. A bond carried not by armies or kings, but by two souls who dared to remember. And in their promise, the future of both peoples began to change.